Hello, everyone. This is Whitney from Star Hearth Astrology, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Libra full moon that occurs on Sunday, March 28th of 2021. So, it's a full moon, which means it is the point where the moon is 180 degrees from the sun, fully opposite the sun. It is the peak emotional tension point of the month. Right? One of the breaking points, as it were. But as far as full moons go, I really, really, really love this one. And I'm not a person that really loves full moons in general. And I know I keep saying that I don't say this about lunations, but we've had a few, the last two new moons were really nice, and this full moon I really, really like too. Now, that doesn't mean that it is a simple full moon, and it doesn't mean that it is without pain or tension. I just think that the way that this full moon is positioned, it keeps things really, really workable. And so I really appreciate that about this full moon. So let me break that down for you a little bit. So this full moon happens at 8 degrees of Aries and Libra. So the sun is in the sign of his exaltation. And Aries, very, very powerful, very, very purposive. And the moon is in Libra, calling for us to remember the other, even as we are on our sacred journey, our sacred mission in Aries. We've gotten, we're realizing what we have to do. And I really feel like the sun's conjunction with Venus that happened on Friday, March 26th, is really part of that. And the gifts of that conjunction is understanding what we have to do. And I think it's coming to terms with what Glennon Doyle put so powerfully, that what's good for us is good for the people that we love. Ultimately, the loving action for ourselves and for the other is inseparable. And I think that that is part of the medicine of Chiron and Aries. I think that is the gift of the sun conjunct Venus and Aries, is realizing that that it's not choosing between what we know we need to do for us and what we feel obligated to give others. It's really understanding that what we need to do for us is also a gift to other people, whether it's offering their freedom, offering them a chance to confront their own competency or incompetency. Ultimately, we do not serve ourselves or others by sacrificing in a way that offends our soul. Or by doing a kind of Libran codependency dance or tit for tat thing. Really, Aries is blind to the process of the other, because it's so tuned in with itself. But we find, right, as all signs are inverses of each other, that when we seek what's really good for us, with a really eyes open, heart open way, that is ultimately what is good for others. And vice versa, when we lean into the Libran archetype and we try to balance and create harmony with others, we find that, right, it's through living our authentic self that we free up other people to do so also. And that we end up acting that grace for ourselves. So there's that tension. The Venus is still very close to the sun at the moment of the full moon, which occurs in Mountain Time at 12:48 p.m. So right in the middle of the day. So we'll see a full moon, basically we won't be able to distinguish it as not a full moon. So we'll get the kind of full moon nights on Saturday night and Sunday night, but the actual moment of the full moon is in the middle of the day on Sunday. So that moment happens, right, as I said, with the sun conjunct Venus opposite the moon at 8 degrees of Libra. Now there's a couple other things going on there. So for one thing, Chiron is also at 8 degrees of Aries. So we've got a Chiron, Venus, Sun conjunction in Aries. And Chiron, right, brings the wound and also possibly the medicine, and can speak to our fears of rejection, the ultimate wound, parts of the world or relationships that say, you don't belong here, you don't get to be here, right? What a core wound for humanity, right? I don't know anyone who is not sensitive to that wound. And the more brutally we've experienced that wound, the more violent, whether physically or emotionally or spiritually, we become. And right, we do crazy things to protect that sense of belonging. We make outsiders of people to protect that sense of belonging. So we've got the sun, we've got Venus, knowing what it has to do for itself, knowing what you have to do for yourself. And right in that moment, also having to recognize that that could constellate the potential of rejection. But, right, and so that could be quite painful, but it can also be the medicine of returning you to yourself. It can be so powerful to choose yourself over the other person. It can be so powerful to choose what you need to do for you, because, right, remember what I said a few minutes ago, that is ultimately what's best for the other person too, right? And now I'm not saying that, when we move through the world blindly, we never consider other people, that that's what's good for them. Obviously, that is not what is good for them. But when we are really tuned in to that fine little compass rose inside of our hearts telling us what we really need to do, when we betray that in ourselves, we betray the people around us also. But, sometimes in following that, our paths are going to diverge from the people around us. Our paths are going to diverge from certain relationships, rightly or wrongly. It's just, not everyone is coming along in our journey. And that's what Mars in Aries does. Mars in Aries is willing to part ways on the path to follow the strength of its own calling, to follow what it knows it needs to do. If you need some kind of medicine for this journey, I would suggest Mary Oliver's poem called The Journey. That has a really powerful kind of mythos to put your soul into, to get you through this moment. So, right, we've got that. Right, what Chiron can also do in Aries is show us the limitations of ourselves. So that can also be, right, refusing an invitation from another, from the moon that really wants to go along with something. And the sun and Venus is the ruler of Libra. She's the ruler of this full moon, and she is opposite it in Aries. And what I feel like that means is that, we can send our hearts, we can send our grief, we can send our love to the people around us, but we really need to go our own way. Venus, even as the ruler of the moon, is with the sun, is in Aries. Now, Venus, the Sun, and Chiron, all being in Aries, are ruled by Mars. So let's, for a second, check in with Mars, see what Mars is doing. So Mars just had a conjunction with the North Node, also on Friday the 26th. And so Mars is pretty active, probably feeling pretty good, ready to take action. The tension in Gemini is that Mars is going to want to do both, right? Both Libra and Gemini can really see both sides of an issue, or more than both sides of an issue. And Mars in Gemini is going to want to kind of do everything and be on every side, which can, from the outside, look kind of erratic. So that's happening, but Mars is also in a trine to Saturn. So that trine to Saturn is going to rein Mars in a little bit. I think this is one of the moments where Mars and Saturn are working together quite well. And we have not had Mars and Saturn in a kind of harmonious working together way in quite some time. In about a year, although a year might have been, we had the Mars-Saturn conjunction right in Aquarius as we went into lockdown. And that was a little bit brutal. But now they're in a trine. So we have Mars in Gemini and Saturn in Aquarius. And they're working together. And what I see that as is they are weighing the options. They are picking the actions that are going to be the best in the long term, right? Part of that weighing the options is kind of keeping options open intellectually. So that Saturn, I see Saturn as kind of slowing down Mars. Slowing down Mars to say, right, the way to do both, or maybe part of wanting to do both, is not really knowing what the best thing is or what the right thing is to do right now. And so let us be a little bit patient, watch how the chips fall, knowing, right, having the gift of that Sun Venus cazimi, keeping that little flame alive inside of us, but not needing to get too frantic about it, right? This is the kind of Mars learning how to step cautiously with Saturn. And so I think leaning into that caution maybe is going to be the wise move here. Because the other thing that's going on, so Mars in Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in Pisces, approaching a conjunction with Neptune. So we've got Mercury, who is kind of like the boss of Mars right now, in the sign of its detriment and its fall, approaching a conjunction with Neptune, very, very foggy. It's just kind of feeling its way through the dark, very turned around, very confused. And so what we can trust is that we don't know the full situation. We do not know all of the facts. And so, so we can realize that maybe we're lost and use that Saturn to kind of put the brakes on Mars and sit down and wait. Have some contemplative time, right? Meditate on that spark of insight about what truly matters to us, what we're really trying to do here with the Sun Venus cazimi, and not kind of run around in circles with the more kind of diluted side of Mercury conjunct Neptune. It's really, really powerful to do vision work to try and, kind of push Mercury, our worldly mind, into our divine mind, but not the best time to take action, right? All of the images that we get in dreams or the powerful insights that we get from meditation and dreams, right? Like they have to be translated through Saturn also, right? If we try to just kind of sidestep Saturn on things, that's when we really fall on our faces. So we can use all of that kind of numinous material, but we need to filter it through reality so that we do not kind of get off our rockers about the stuff that we're saying. So I would say hold your beliefs gently, right? Not every belief requires action. And there's magic to patience, right? You can see how things play out for a little bit longer. You don't have to take action. And so I think that's really the gift of this Saturn-Mars trine. But the beautiful thing about it is that they both trine the moon in its moment of fullness. So they bring this steadying quality. And Saturn is exalted in the sign of Libra, where the moon is. And it's exalted there because it's exactly in the area of justice that we need to have our sticking points. It's exactly in the area of not betraying ourselves and not betraying the other that we need the most discipline from Saturn. And so the moon in a trine with Saturn can be really sensitive to that. So we can lean into the moon as this kind of touchstone and steady way of, instead of feeling obligation or sacrifice that we owe the other, right? Leaning into the moon, leaning into our body, sensing what feels right in our bones in terms of actions for ourselves and actions for other people. And, right, the moon is, can feel that desire to act with Mars, can feel the steadying effect of Saturn saying, let's zoom out, let's look at the big picture. And, right, so we've got some stability, even though, right, this is a fairly complicated full moon with so many players involved, right? I mentioned every single visible planet besides Jupiter involved in the degree of this full moon. So those are my thoughts for you. I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to leave me your stories in the comments, like and share this video if it moves you. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so honored that you stuck through the video. And I will see you in a couple weeks for the Aries new moon that occurs on April 11th. If you'd like my full rundown of Aries season, where I go over all of the major transits while the sun is in Aries, you can find that on my channel. Okay, happy full moon. I hope you really come home to yourself. I hope you feel the tension with the other. I hope you feel how love both strains you and honors you. And I hope you find a way to honor all of the work that you put into it. Okay, be well.